Back here in Adelaide, the cars are getting lined up in pit lane, ready to go out for that final all-important qualifying session, which will determine who starts in pole tomorrow for this 500th Grand Prix. And it's very, very warm right now, 27, 28 degrees. Barry Sheene down there in the pits talking to, I believe, Nigel Mansell, yes it is, and keeping us in touch right throughout this weekend with the hot gossip out of pit lane and all the activity that's going on there. Qualifying after that first session this morning, Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, Alesi, Riccardo Patrese, Nigel Mansell and Gerhard Berger. So that's what we had. There was the qualifying after that first session. Moreno, Boutsen, Piquet, Martini, Nakajima and then Johnny Herbert. They're the top 12 thus far. And they are getting ready to go out, and as we can see, Gerhard Berger is out on the track. We join our commentators, Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Yes, this is it, the final 60 minutes of qualifying. Is Ayrton Senna going to finish up in pole position for the 52nd time in his amazing career? If he does, is Alain Prost going to be alongside him? And if they are on the front row of the grid, is there going to be a repetition of what happened in Japan? We sincerely hope not, but first of all, we have to resolve the pole position, the second place, and the places thereafter. And at the present moment, it is Senna who is holding the provisional pole position, and down in the pit lane with Nigel Mansell is Barry Sheene.
Yeah, thank you, Murray. Nigel, just looking at the times here, you've got a lot of hard work to do, haven't you?
Well, a little bit. I think it's going to be fairly tough, though, to improve on some of those times. It's about 5-6 degrees hotter. We had a few problems this morning, but Gerhard will probably improve. I hope to improve a little bit, but we're going to be hard pushed to get in the 15s.
And you were saying the Ferrari doesn't really seem to suit Adelaide. Why is that?
Well, we're getting too much wheel spin, and I think it's just basically the torque of our engine. We've got a hole where we really want a nice torque band, and it just doesn't suit our engine.
Oh, well, maybe next year would be better off then.
Oh, look, I mean, I got no problems. I mean, I'm just happy to be here. It's great to be in Australia. We're going to be somewhere up there. We'll have a good go at the race tomorrow, but I hope I have all my luck next year. I'm saving it up.
Okay, Murray,
well, Nigel Mansell sounds a lot more laid back about it than I feel, and Gerhard Berger has just gone through on what is clearly going to be a very quick lap.
Yes, indeed, Murray. He was first. He got in the queue some 10 minutes before the cars were going out to be first in the queue, and he's hoping, though, that slower cars won't have come out and be on their warm-up lap. This is definitely a full chat qualifying attempt from Gerhard Berger. He was only 6th overnight, so he's got room and desire for improvement. But there are pros and cons to all these things, and whilst it's a good thing that he's so far got a beautifully clear track, he's had to pass no cars, and that is a good thing. At the same time, there have been a few cars on the track since 11:30 this morning of other natures that spread the dust around, and the track might just be a little bit dusty on the racing line until the few F1 cars following exactly the same line have cleaned it up. So, Berger. Now coming towards the end of the lap. Left again, then the quick right and hard onto the brakes into the final hairpin. And this is pretty quick, but from experience, not quite quick enough. It's going to be about the same as his yesterday's time, I guess. He's looking to beat 1:17.4, 1:16.6, and it's better.
Yes, and in the process, Gerhard Berger moves up to 3rd position. Early days, he's out extraordinarily early for a McLaren. Normally, both Senna and Berger, but especially Senna, leave things until the very, very last moment. Senna's been known to cross the line to start his qualifying lap just before the end of the session, and by just before I mean a matter of seconds, so that he gets the last lap of all in, and that's the one he very often makes pole. 51 times he has done that. So at the present moment, the only one of any importance at the top of the grid to have improved is Gerhard Berger in this final 60-minute qualifying, and we're 4 minutes into it. Senna is fastest, Prost is second, Berger, there he is 3rd. this is David Brabham, and in the pit lane, Alan Jones.
Thanks very much, Murray. Well, actually, the reason that Berger was so quickly out, I've just been talking to Lee Gogg from Goodyear, and he's saying, believe it or not, that when the sun gets behind those clouds, it does make a little bit of a difference to their times. And I think Gerhard was very keen to go out while the sun was behind those clouds and just take advantage of a little bit of cooler ambient temperature. And I think you'll find that a lot of the guys up this end of the pit lane anyway are going to try and judge it when that sun's out of the way, because it does make a difference to their overall lap times.
Yes, absolutely. I would hold with what Alan Jones said there. And in fact, although the temperature half an hour ago was slightly hotter than the same time yesterday, we've had just this little bit of cloud cover from a few minutes before 1, and it seems to be staying. There is a bit more cloud around, and that will certainly, if it stays like this, the sun's in and out, but we didn't have that little bit of cover yesterday at this time, and then the track may be quicker today. Certainly Berger's improved, and also further down the field, Johnny Herbert has improved by some 8/10 his time of yesterday, although it hasn't really moved him up.
Yes, but very good news for the man who is on his way into the pit lane. In fact, he's in it now. It's David Brabham. It's been touch and go at a lot of Grand Prix this year, whether David qualified. Well, he is currently 23rd out of the 30 drivers, and since 26 of them start, David is well in at the moment. Now, let me explain what is happening now. You saw his car is being weighed, but this is interesting because it is Jean Alesi, the Frenchman, who is currently 4th on the grid. He was 3rd, but Gerhard Berger has displaced him, and Alesi in the Tyrrell on Pirelli tyres, most of the runners are on Goodyears, is going to be going for a very quick one right now.
Yes, he looks to be on his quick one at the moment, and he had 2 offs this morning in the untimed session. Now, just look at the clock. Out of the last corner, and that's not going to be an improvement at all on Alesi's earlier time. And it did look to me then as if his rear tyres might have gone off. Now, I know the Pirellis, as he was braking... Oh, this is the quick one. Now he's wound it up. So, Alesi embarks on a quick lap. Watch him flow. In the meantime, the track looks quick because we've had improvements also, as well as Herbert from Modena and Capelli have moved themselves.
So there we are, Jean Alesi. As you see, he's only 26 years old, and his debut last year was at the French Grand Prix. Finished 4th in his first race. 22 races, and amazingly he has finished 2nd twice this year on circuits just like Adelaide, street circuits. He was 2nd at Phoenix, he was 2nd at Monaco. Is he going to make it 3 second places in a row on street circuits by doing it here at Adelaide on Sunday, or maybe one better? That would be absolutely fabulous for the sport and for Alesi, who next year will be driving for Ferrari, replacing Nigel Mansell. So here is the Frenchman, almost at the end of the lap, coming down to Foster's hairpin.
Yes, and I've just looked at the printout. He's done several laps, and this isn't a quick one either. And it may well be that Alesi, he's on a run now, and one has to assume that they're doing some race testing or maybe some car checking on a more durable compound, and he's going for just one set of qualifiers later. That could be to do with a little bit of damage to the car or something. They've had to repair it, and they may want to have elected for one set of race tyres and one set of qualifiers to do this work on the setup again.
So that is Alesi. Be back with us soon.
Well, Nigel Mansell there, lounging around, waiting to do his run. Nigel's had a couple of good games of golf this weekend, won a trophy in the Grand Prix Drivers' Golf Tournament on Wednesday, and certainly enjoying himself out here.
Well, I must say Nigel's golf, he reckoned, was pretty impressive that day, though I watched some of it on TV and I pointed out to him that he was moving his hips too much. And I don't think he was very impressed by my criticism of his golf, because he thought 1 over par was pretty good.
Yeah, he's playing off a 5 handicap at the moment, Nigel. He has been down to 2 at one stage in his career. Of course, it was out here in Australia that he played in his first professional tournament. He played in the Australian Open. And in fact, his first round was really quite good, but subsequently he went to pieces. But that's what golf's all about, putting in 4 really good rounds. Well, Nigel may be would have become a professional pro celebrity golf player next season if he hadn't gone back on his decision to retire. Well, certainly that's our gain. Jean Alesi getting his car weighed. We'll be back in just a couple of short moments.
Welcome back to Adelaide as we watch Thierry Boutsen circling the Adelaide Grand Prix circuit in his Williams. Well, the reason that Alesi is not going all that quick, he's out on race rubber. They've had a new brake supplier apparently, and they're having terrible trouble with their brakes, and he's not at all happy with the situation. He went off twice this morning, and they've elected to go onto some race rubber to try and get those brakes right, obviously, for the race.
So you watch Thierry Boutsen, and we are now 11 minutes into the 60-minute final qualifying session with Ayrton Senna still in pole position on yesterday's time. Alain Prost still second on yesterday's time. Gerhard Berger has moved up to third position with an improvement on yesterday's time. Now let's see what Boutsen does. 1 minute 18.1, and that is slower than he went yesterday. Jean Alesi is fourth on the grid, and Riccardo Patrese is fifth. Nigel Mansell down to sixth position, but he has not yet been out, and nor has his teammate Alain Prost. Now here are the improvements so far. Gerhard Berger has gone faster than he went yesterday. So has Ivan Capelli, so has Stefano Modena, so has Mauricio Gugelmin, and so has Morbidelli, and so have some of the men at the tail end of the grid. But only one man up at the front of the grid has improved, and that's the man who's in third position on your caption, Gerhard Berger, the Austrian in the McLaren Honda. And that's a good improvement from his point of view, because when he started this session, he was way down by his standards, because Berger was in sixth position on the grid. So he has improved from sixth to third, and that will be more than welcome for him. But of course, McLaren want to get both their cars on the front row of the grid, and this is Piquet.
And Piquet has actually moved up into sixth place already. He was ahead of that caption. And Nelson Piquet has put in a 1:17.1, which moves him into sixth place, and that'll be his first set of qualifiers gone. Now, we have very few cars circulating on the track at the moment, because remember, the vast majority of the teams, all those teams who are pretty much happy with their cars, will have just 2 sets of tyres, because that's all you can have, 2 sets of tyres to do the session on. They're marked, and both those sets are likely to be qualifying tyres that basically have a life of 1 lap, or 1 hard lap. They're very soft and sticky, and the rubber overheats after that. It blisters and deteriorates fast. So, but they are very sticky for 1 lap, which means that getting your quick lap is extremely tactical, because each driver is trying to find a little window on the activities on the track when they can get a completely clear lap. Because remember that each driver, to do his 1 clear lap, does 1 slow one out of the pits, then and during which time he's a hazard to people going quick, because he doesn't want to go quick, doesn't want to put too much heat into his very soft qualifying tyres. He only really goes for it out of the last corner before he starts his quick lap, and then as soon as he's crossed the line, he slows it right down to cool the tyres down. There we see Piquet being weighed. This is the normal scrutineering. There's random scrutineering checks throughout the practice for the weight of the car on which there's a limit, and also for a few other dimensions like the height of the rear wing and things like that. And they've got systems where they can do all that very quickly. Piquet presumably passed the test, and away he goes. So the tactical problem also, as I say, there's 2 slow laps, 1 out, then the quick one, then a slow lap in, and everybody's looking for gaps in the traffic, and this is not easy to find.
Roberto Moreno out on the circuit, Barry Sheene in the pit lane.
Yeah, Murray, I was talking to Gerhard Berger just now, and he was, you know, saying that he'd gone quite a bit quicker, and he said that, boy, it's really so slippery out there, you'd never believe it. And unless the temperature drops sort of 4 or 5 degrees, it's going to be a real struggle to sort of go any quicker. Yes, he can go a little bit quicker, but doesn't reckon he's going to get here. So we'll have to wait and see, Murray.
Yes, that surprises me not at all, because it's obvious that the times in general are going to be slower for the people right up at the front, or rather their yesterday's times are going to be retained. It's going to be very interesting to see how Roberto Moreno, who's starting off on a quick lap now, goes. Moreno is in a 8th position on the grid. He's in the Benetton Ford. Now this is a quick one. Remember what Barry Sheene and Gerhard Berger have said. The circuit is slippier. I'm surprised the Ferraris aren't out by now, because it's very hot out there, and it's getting hotter all the time as the tarmac absorbs heat, and that will slow things down.
Yes, the sun is on the circuit unbroken at the moment, but it does look as if we'll get some break with this little bit of cloud cover. There's a fair bit of light cloud around, and they may be waiting for that to move into position, but there's very little wind, so if it gets here, then of course they can expect a few minutes of cover, and Ferrari may be watching with that. Now, we're watching Moreno. Moreno now coming down the fastest part of the circuit, hard on the brakes, the end of the main straight. Second gear right. Now the twisty section, and he wants to keep it nice and smooth through here. And Moreno, of course, a new name to a lot of people, but well known to be a very talented driver who's waited a long time for a break in a competitive car. And he certainly will give Piquet a run for his money, and this looks, well, we'll see how we go. It's not an improvement on his yesterday's time. Moreno actually out-qualified teammate Nelson Piquet yesterday by a couple of tenths, but he won't be too thrilled with that one.
But out on the circuit now, Jean Alesi, who we have seen do several laps in succession, finalising the setup of his car. He will have a new set of Pirelli qualifying tyres on, and Nigel Mansell is on the circuit too, but this is Alesi. He's got a slow car in front of him who moves over. It was Andrea De Cesaris, but while Alesi goes round on this lap with touring car champion Peter Brock, in the pit lane is Alan Jones.
Thanks very much, Murray. Well, Brocky, what do you think about all this?
Well, I'm amazed at the quality of the machinery. I mean, this is beautifully put together. Everyone works at a very controlled pace. I mean, you see a guy doing a job, he's very precise. I guess it's what happens with organisation and just experience.
Would you like their budgets?
Oh, I'd like spillage. I'd like a small portion thereof. It's amazing. It's a new world, isn't it?
Okay, well, I'm going to see you a little bit later on this afternoon.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm smiling at you, Jones. You'll probably crash into me later on.
Oh, thanks, mate. Okay, Murray, back to you.
Yes, as Jean Alesi comes up to finish what may be a very quick lap. He went round before in 1 minute 21.636, but it is still Senna, Prost, Berger, Alesi. Now maybe this is the quick one, in which case he's done 2 setting up laps, which surprises me. But Senna and Prost look fixed on the front row of the grid, the way things are going at the moment. And if that happens, that is going to be really something on Sunday.
It's interesting what report we had from the pits then, from Alan Jones, that they've been having brake trouble, because if you remember when we saw Alesi before, I remarked that I thought maybe his rear tyres had gone off from because it was wandering under braking, but of course that looks the same externally. Clearly his rear brakes weren't working properly, or the balance wasn't right, and the problem was brakes rather than tyres. But it was visible. Now we can see here at the end of the straight how the car is under braking, because we saw it snaking quite a lot earlier. Now brakes better. It was better that time. We don't know whether he's still on race rubber and doing his brake testing exercise, or whether he's actually gone on to qualifiers. I would suspect he'll keep his qualifiers for later, because he can only have one set. So, just about to complete his lap. I'll give you the time as Alesi crosses the line. We're now on board one of the Ferraris. I think it's Mansell. And Alesi, yes, still race testing, working on the brakes, a 121. That clearly wasn't on qualifiers, but much more fun. Let's look at it from Nigel Mansell's point of view.
Into racetrack hairpin, that is the slowest corner on the course. Now paddock turn at about 160 kilometres an hour. He'll accelerate out of that up to 240 k's before braking very, very hard and going right down through the gears. Into second for Foster's hairpin, which is where he is now. Accelerates away to 250 kilometres an hour with speed building, and Mansell 8th. Has improved his time and moved up to 5th position on the grid. Now, 5th on the grid, that's exactly where he was yesterday. So although his time is faster, his position is no higher. And now on 20 minutes, and that is Alesi again.
Yes, well, maybe they haven't got the brake problem sorted out, because I saw Alesi this morning, and this is now Mansell slowed right down. He just slowed right down. That was a qualifying run. He improved his time by probably not as much as I think he would have liked to have done, because he's only in 5th place on the grid, which is not as high as Mansell would aspire to being, and he's only got 1 set left. But Alesi, he fell off twice this morning, and that, I'm sure, is brake troubles, because he wasn't under pressure to go quick.
So the Brabham on the circuit, and we'll be back with you for more qualifying soon.
Well, there we go, in car with David Brabham, as he continues still talk about whether he's going to continue with the team. There seems to be a chance that he may be able to continue with the team. Any news on that one, John?
I think Brabham are looking at other people, but David Brabham has, despite lack of results, well, here we have Jean Alesi again losing the car. This time he manages to keep the engine running up the curb, just again kissing that tower wall, but getting it back into gear, driving onto the track, a big boot full of dust and gravel now for everybody else to contend with. But back with David Brabham here, coming across the start-finish line. And we get a lap from David. Well, 1 minute 20.218. Some improvement certainly on yesterday.
Yeah, still remains in 23rd spot though. He's 24th yesterday, earlier moved up 1 spot, and 20.2. Well, no problem about him qualifying for the race, and of course he has had problems at various circuits, including Monaco, a rather similar track to this. This is one of 3 street circuits on the World Tour. John, how do you rate it against Monaco and, of course, well, I suppose the rather bland circuit in Phoenix?
Really, it falls between those 2 circuits. Monaco is, if you like, the archetypal Grand Prix road circuit, because it runs through, in every respect, the day-to-day roads of Monte Carlo. Here in Adelaide, we use some of the streets, some of the main roads of Adelaide, but of course then we go into this park section of the circuit, which is part of the Adelaide horse race course, whereas Phoenix is really a grid system type racetrack. In other words, roads run north, south, east and west, so you tend to get right-angle corners. The benefit of right-angle corners, let me say, is of course it invites overtaking, whereas at Monaco overtaking is almost impossible. In Adelaide we've got a little bit of both. It's neither as easy as Phoenix or as difficult as Monte Carlo.
Well, there's David Brabham on his slowing down now. Good time to take a short break.
We're back live at Adelaide. This is Jackie Stewart. We're looking at Jean Alesi, who today alone has 3 times gone off the racetrack in a spin. The speculation is that a braking system that he has is not behaving correctly. It looks to me as if the rear brakes are coming on slightly ahead of the front brakes, causing him to spin out. It's certainly causing a problem. We're going to try and get Barry Sheene or Alan Jones to find out right from the horse's mouth, right from Ken Tyrrell maybe, if there is a real problem with Alesi or if it's just the exuberance of youth. Now back to Murray Walker.
23 minutes into the session, and touch wood, fingers crossed, David Brabham is still in and Alain Prost is on the circuit.
And on a quick one. Prost really trying. But I've seen Prost a couple of corners ago throwing the car about as much as you ever see Prost do it. So this is Prost right up on the limit. That is Eric Bernard ahead of him, I think. We won't be pleased about if he gets in the way, but Bernard has got to improve his time. He's had a rotten practice so far and is not in the race. David Brabham, incidentally, is 24th at the moment and may struggle to stay in with other people improving. He's still got Eric Bernard behind him who's likely to go quick. Now, Prost coming towards the end of the lap, the slow left-hander, now accelerating through the quick left and the very quick right, hard on the brakes for the hairpin. There you are, onto the brakes. Prost has a 16.3 to beat, so he'll be doing well, and he's nowhere there. He's nearly a second down. We're getting some funny results in the qualifying. Some people seem able to improve on their yesterday's time by anything up to a second, and other people seem to be going very hard and being a second away from yesterday's time. So it's at the moment there isn't really a pattern But Prost still in quite a comfortable second place. Berger is in third place, some 0.3 of a second behind him, and that's a lot to find.
Gerhard Berger, the fastest today, as a result of which he has moved up into third position, but with Alain Prost 0.8 of a second slower so far than he was yesterday. He is well down on today's times, although he's still holding his second place on the grid behind the provisional pole position man Ayrton Senna. And Alan Jones has news for us from the pit lane.
Thanks very much, Murray. Well, I've just been talking to Ken Tyrrell. He's a little bit reluctant to talk to us at the moment. As you can imagine, they're fairly busy. He told me that because Alesi went off 3 times this morning and didn't do his homework vis-a-vis setting up the car for the race, that he's actually sent him out on new tyres, or race tyres, and full tank of fuel. And I said, look, have you got brake problems or not? And he pointed at the time and he said a 21.4 or a 21.6 on full tanks and race rubber. Does that look like we've got brake problems? And I said, no. And he said, oh, I think it's more driver problems. He thinks we've got problems with brakes. But that's what he said. And he said, well, because he went off 3 times this morning, he's going to jolly well make him do the race setup this afternoon. But they have got a brand new set of qualifiers for the end of the session.
Well, I suppose it's what the man who's driving the car thinks the brakes are like that matters in a way. But if you can't do anything about it, you can't do anything about it. Now, can Senna here do anything about his pole position time from yesterday of 1 minute 15.671? I don't think he really has to, of course, because being 0.7 of a second faster than Prost, it looks to me as though there is no way at all that the Frenchman, whose time today is 1.5 seconds slower than Senna's pole time yesterday, can do anything about catching, let alone improving on the time of Ayrton Senna here. But Senna is quite incredible in his ability constantly to go faster, no matter how fast anybody else goes. But if even Ayrton Senna can improve on his time, I will be surprised. I'm not going to make any rash statements, because he probably will.
Yes, I fancy him to improve it a little bit. There's no need, as you rightly say, Murray. He's, I think, really, the time he set yesterday, reachable only by him in the current conditions. But Senna has a commitment to speed that is a personal battle with himself as much as with the others. And Senna is out there, and believing me, he wants to go quicker. Now, this is it. He'll be booting it out of the last corner. Yep, and he's winding it right up. So Senna starts the first of his 2 sets of qualifiers. Just watch the way he balances the car. He uses all the road, but it's not untidy. He's anticipating the movement and the sliding of the car, and this allows the car to get all 4 tyres to work. Now, that was a little bit of a mistake, but shouldn't have cost him much time. He kept his foot in it. I didn't hear a lift. We're talking hundredths or even thousandths of a second for that little one. He has a psychological effect on the others. Whoever that was, I couldn't see in a glance, got well out of his way. Now Senna on the main straight, up to some 290 kilometres an hour on a very short straight, and now hard on the brakes, down to the right down to second gear, slowest corner on the circuit. Ayrton Senna, now the last 3 corners of the lap, and then. This looks quick on the clock. 15.7, remember, he's got to beat. Not quite, but that's the fastest time of the day so far, 1:16.2.
And if Ayrton Senna can't beat his time, I doubt that anybody else can. But maybe Nelson Piquet's got a point of view on that, and he is with Alan Jones.
Very much, Murray. Well, last Grand Prix in Japan, the winner, first and second, great result.
Thank you very much.
What are you doing? Are you waiting for it to get a bit cooler, a cloud to come over, more rubber on the track?
Well, I did my first set of tires already the first 15 minutes, and I wait for the last 15 minutes because the circuit a little bit clean, and also if come a big clouds and cool down a little bit, you know, as always we get a little bit more horsepower.
And you think a little bit more rubber on the circuit should help?
Yes, helps a little bit.
Okay, Nelson, thanks very much. Back to you, Murray.
Nelson Piquet there, back at the top after his victory in Japan. Nelson and Ayrton Senna there slowing down after that quick lap. Incidentally, we now have McLaren's first and second on today's times, because Ayrton Senna's time, although slower than yesterday, is the fastest of today's. Well, that's the news from Adelaide. Be back with us after this.
The car, the tyre, the driver to work harmoniously to provide the opportunity to open the throttle. And really driving a Grand Prix car, the key to it is just getting the throttle open earlier and wider than your competitors. And that's what I was able to do in Long Beach, and consequently we went on and won the race.
Yes, but
it all sounds very simple, of course.
Does. But it isn't.
It's not at all. To get to that particular point is extremely difficult indeed. Teams spend days doing it at a racetrack. They come to racetracks, not street tracks like Adelaide, but they just test.
Riccardo Patrese, this is his first attempt at qualifying today. Patrese currently shown in 6th spot with a 1:17.156. One of the few people not to go out until halfway through the session. Johnny Herbert, another one incidentally. And just looking down the timing list, Eric Bernard hasn't been out yet. He's still not in the race. The four not in now, Alboreto and Caffey in the two Arrows, Bernard and Bertrand Gachot in the Coloni.
So Riccardo Patrese getting quite wide, coming onto the straight again, goes two left wheels up the curb. Patrese's time from yesterday was a 1:17.1. So Patrese, I don't know, is going to be any better off than we saw Senna a few minutes ago.
One big improvement, we haven't seen it on the screen, from 19th to 11th spot, Derek Warwick. So we told you earlier on that the Lotus Lamborghini package was certainly working a lot better this morning. They seem to have sorted the car. Derek saying that the car is a bit of a flexible beast, not the stiffest of chassis, and that seems to help it round street circuits. So Derek very happy, no doubt, with the 11th spot in what could be his last ever Grand Prix.
Well, Patrese's lap was 1:17.449. That it didn't either lose in position or gain in position, so Patrese still in 6th place. But just explaining to you, Andrew, or to the listeners, the viewers, what Derek Warwick means by a soft chassis. The flexibility of a car on a street track like this, the advantage that has is that there are not very many very high loads going into the chassis, so therefore the distortion that might occur through the chassis not being rigid has less effect
on their times. And as you can see, Senna and Prost are still at the top of the grid on yesterday's times. Berger has moved up to 3rd with today's. Alesi has gone down a place. Mansell is still 5th, although he's improved his time. And Riccardo Patrese, trying very, very hard indeed, and he's just completed that lap, is in 6th position, 1 place better than he was yesterday, in spite of the fact that he's half a second quicker.
Now this is Mansell going out again, and it looks to me, well, I haven't had a look at the tyres, but if he's on a new set of tyres, then this is his second set of qualifiers, and that decision to go now, apart from the fact that the traffic conditions on the circuit are good and there aren't many cars out, everybody else is waiting, and that may be, and therefore that makes it quite a good idea, but the sun is still burning down on the track and the cloud cover that's around hasn't happened, and it is, the track definitely gets noticeably quicker if it's had like 5 minutes of broken sun on it, so you know, through cloud. Both for the engines and the cooling of the track surface helps the grip. So the engines operate slightly more powerfully. And Mansell, because Mansell currently in 5th place, will be looking for, really, he wants about half a second of improvement. He's got a 16.9 to beat. Of his own, that is, ahead of him. And now we have, everybody's had a go today with the exception, I think, still of Eric Bernard, who left the pits once and then hasn't reappeared. So he's had a very, very troubled weekend, and it may just be that he's had to park his race car out on the circuit, because I haven't seen him back in the garage. So Eric Bernard we seem to have lost. Mansell to start the quick lap.
And Nigel Mansell in 5th position on the grid. As James has said, the circuit is slippery, it's getting very hot, but at least hopefully from his point of view he has got a clear lap in front of him. He is really trying very hard. You can see the way he nearly lost it there, but he's keeping off the curbs, and it could be that Mansell will improve, but the gap between himself and the next one is enough to make it just 1/10 of a second would help.
Yes, and he looks very committed on this lap. The quick one, this is the most important corner on the circuit. He didn't lift for that, that's all right, using a bit more road, but the speed out of that corner governs your speed down the longest straight on the course and the longest time before the next corner. Whoops, locked the right front a little bit there. Shouldn't have hurt him, shouldn't have unbalanced the car too much. Certainly putting a tremendous physical effort into this lap. To drive a Formula One car at this sort of level requires tremendous physical output and really a lot of work in the cockpit. Now, let's look at the time. Mansell 16.9 to beat, and it's there. And Mansell goes into 2nd place, just pipping Alain Prost by, 1/100th of a second. So, Nigel Mansell, 2nd place, and that is his afternoon's qualifying finish. That's his 2nd set. He won't be able to improve on that, or in normal circumstances won't be able to.
That was a terrific lap by Nigel Mansell, because his fastest time yesterday was 1:17.3. His fastest lap, which he's just completed today, 1:16.3, a full second faster. Now, Alain Prost maybe is sitting in the cockpit there and thinking, if I can do that, if I can improve my time by 1 second, like my teammate Nigel Mansell has done, I will be well up on the grid. He's 2nd position at the moment, so that would be great. So Mansell coming in at the end of his lap, having moved up to 2nd place on the grid.
Well, it certainly appeared that... Oh, and there's a big one from Capelli in the Leighton house, but he didn't hit anything. He probably didn't do it much good, jumping over the curb, but he'll have to certainly come and have it checked now. Well, there goes Mansell, cooling it all down. Now, Mansell certainly benefited from getting a very traffic-free lap then. There are very few cars on the circuit now. The sun is out, and I think if I was in Alain Prost's position, I might say, well, if Mansell can do that right now, there's not much on the circuit. Actually, the sun is just starting to go in. We're getting a little bit of cloud cover, so maybe he can wait. But things look good now. That proves that the circuit's quick, and Prost must be tempted. He must be toying with the idea of going now. Remember, it's a very difficult decision, and it's a lot of it is guesswork. It's qualified guesswork, but by no means can you always get it right. Look, you can see the shade from that picture. Half the circuit's in shade. The cloud is coming.
Yes, of course, for Alain Prost to improve his fastest lap time so far from yesterday by a second, as Nigel Mansell has done, would be, to put it mildly, very much harder, because Prost's time yesterday was a lot faster than Mansell's. But if he did, hypothetically, he would move into pole position. And by the way, your man you're looking at the moment, Michele Alboreto in the Arrows with the Ford DFR engine, is out of qualification. He's 27th at the moment. Incidentally, David Brabham is still in at 24th place out of 26. And as Alboreto completes his lap, come back to Adelaide soon.
We're live here in Adelaide. Two dramatic things are occurring. One, David Brabham is fighting to make the field here in this Australian Grand Prix. He's in 24th position of a field that will only be 26th. In this last 15 to 18 minutes, it's going to be vital for this young man to either improve his time or sit and wait for someone else to beat it. Right now he's in the field. The other battle is going on for the front row. because Ayrton Senna's on the pole, but Alain Prost's been alongside him. But in the last 10 or 15 minutes, Nigel Mansell's put himself on the front row alongside Senna. Senna won't like that because Mansell's a far tougher man going into the first corner than Alain Prost. That could be trouble for tomorrow if it's going to stay the way it is now. In the meantime, let's go back and get progress from Murray Walker.
Progress indeed, because this could change the front row of the grid. It is Gerhard Berger, and you can see for yourself how his forceful style flings the McLaren Honda around the circuit, and this certainly looks meteorically quick. He's the second fastest today so far, with Ayrton Senna the fastest today, but Berger is only in 4th position provisionally on the grid, and ahead of him are Ayrton Senna, Mansell, Prost, and then Gerhard Berger. And what McLaren want, of course, is to have both their cars on the front row of the grid to make things as hard as possible for everybody else, especially Ferrari. And this slow man in front of Gerhard Berger coming out of the last corner isn't going to help. It's Nakajima in his way, and Gerhard Berger goes round and up into 2nd position. 1 minute 16.244. McLarens are on the front row of the grid.
Yes, and apropos, there's Mansell, and that will be a disappointment to him, and he can do nothing about it now. He's used both sets of qualifiers. That will be disappointing, and Ferrari will have to rely on Prost's second set of qualifiers to try and move it, because very much referring to what Jackie Stewart was saying just now, in that Senna wouldn't want Mansell on the front row with him. Senna will be very relieved and pleased that he's got Berger, his own teammate, beside him, who after all is programmed to look after Senna and has done a good job of it this season, but won't cause Senna any undue troubles. Berger's a good starter. He may well get off the line first if they're both on the front row, but I'm confident that Senna won't be worried and will be able to negotiate getting past him if he needs to in the race. Now, this is Johnny Herbert in the background, we see, or is it Derek Warwick? Oh, I do beg your pardon. Yellow cars, and I know the front is Morbidelli and completely different car, so he's on the quick one.
Morbidelli, and Johnny Herbert is now coming out of the pit lane in his Lotus, and Herbert, the British driver who came back to Grand Prix racing in Japan to replace the injured Martin Donnelly, has been pushed down to 17th place on the grid from the 12th position that he had yesterday, and here he is. His shattered legs are now perfectly okay. The Lotus Lamborghini seems to be handling much better at Adelaide after a lot of work having been done on it this morning, because both he and his teammate Derek Warwick went much better in the 1.5-hour non-qualifying session this morning than they did yesterday. And so watch Johnny Herbert, number 12, 26 years old. As you see, he started his Grand Prix career with the Benetton team last year, then subsequently drove for Tyrrell in Belgium. This will only be his 8th Grand Prix if he qualifies. I have no doubt that he will. And he was very much a budding Grand Prix star. But because of the leg injuries that he'd had in his Formula 3000 accident, which frankly had not recovered enough, he wasn't able to show his real pace. He was 4th in his first Grand Prix at Brazil, but tailed off afterwards when he got to the circuits where you really had to use the brakes and have maximum pressure from your leg muscles, because he had virtually no leg muscles at the time. So let's watch the young Englishman, number 12 in the Lotus, as he starts his quick lap.
Yes, and very impressive he was yesterday, because he hadn't done a great deal of lappery, and when it came to the crunch right at the end of qualifying, he moved himself well up the grid. He's got a 19 even almost to try and improve on. I thought a little lift then was a bit unnecessary. He'd thrown it out of the corner quite nicely. He was sliding the car beautifully, just lost confidence. But this is a very talented driver indeed. Great sadness that the huge accident, which wasn't his fault anyway, at Brands Hatch a couple of years ago in 3000, put his career back enormously. Fastest part of the circuit. Quite steady under braking. And Herbert seems to have slowed it right down, or has he? I think Herbert's aborted that lap. Now, maybe he wasn't happy with the setup of his car, but his qualifying tyres will struggle to work again. And there, so Herbert into the pits. He's got time to change the setup, but whether those tyres will work, this looks like a spin from David Brabham. Brabham, you can see a big jolt, like hitting anything, and David Brabham is... he's in 24th position, but not very secure. It rather depends if Eric Bernard can get going. He's had a nightmare of a race meeting, hardly done any laps at all. Now they're getting Herbert's car back into the garage. One would imagine that this would be an abort because he didn't like his setup, but he certainly would have taken the best out of his tyres.
Only 12 minutes to go now, and it is, or it seems to me, to be cooler than it was, that we had a lot of cloud cover, and as I say that, the sun comes out, because I'm waiting to see whether Alain Prost comes out, rather when he comes out again. He's down to 4th position on the grid at the present moment, and that means to say that he will be behind Ayrton Senna, and he will have on his right Nigel Mansell, and to the right in front of him on the grid will be Gerhard Berger. So here's Nelson Piquet on what will certainly be his last fast lap as far as sets of tyres are concerned, because he's been out before. Piquet is in 7th position on the grid with the time today 1 minute 17.17, which is faster than yesterday's time. So he's proved that the setup of the car, oh, he nearly lost it there, and he will have, well, you see he's aborted. He slowed right down. He lost, it wasn't just that he lost momentum, he lost control of the car, not total control, but he was no longer in a position to do exactly what he wanted to do. So he immediately backs off, hopefully, in that he will be able to save his tyres. Look at it, here it is again. You see he's right sideways. He was very lucky he didn't climb the curb and go across the tarmac and straight into the concrete retaining wall. But Nelson Piquet is an old retainer now. He's the oldest Grand Prix driver now. He's 38 years old. And with his enormous experience behind him, because he has driven in so many Grand Prix, he was able to catch it. There we are. Nelson Piquet coming back into the pits to have another think about it. And now, with exactly 10 minutes to go in this final qualifying session at Adelaide, there is the man who just might change the pattern at the front. His engine is being started, and it is, of course, Alain Prost, going out with the knowledge that he is 4th on the grid, behind his rival Ayrton Senna, who looks set for his 52nd pole position, Ayrton Senna. Berger, his teammate, alongside him on the grid, and Ayrton Senna will be more than happy about that. Behind the 2 McLarens, the 2 Ferraris, Mansell and Alain Prost. Then Jean Alesi, the Frenchman, the first Pirelli tyre user in the Tyrrell, on 5th position. Riccardo Patrese is 6th, Nelson Piquet is 7th, Roberto Moreno is in an excellent 8th position. 9th is Thierry Boutsen, 10th is Pierluigi Martini, and I'm delighted to tell you that not only is David Brabham still in the race at 24th, but it looks to me as though all the people behind him, Tarquini, Dalmas, Alboreto, Caffey, Bernard, who's had so much trouble, and Gachot, will stay there. The only one who I think could move up is Bernard, but even if he did, that would make David Brabham 25th. Pierluigi Martini going out of the pit lane. There's smoke pouring out of the back of the car before he's even started the lap. That doesn't look good, but it may be a bit of oil on the engine. Or even the exhaust. Well, it certainly doesn't look like it. As he's passed by Michele Alboreto, the Italian, who is still struggling to qualify. 27th, there's Prost.
Yes, and Prost will now be, well, he's warming his tyres up now, just scrubbing them in, but bidding to get back, at least back onto the front row. He's fourth fastest at the moment, and he has a 16.244 by Berger to beat. His time from yesterday was a 16.365, so he's got to find a bit over a tenth. And down at the back of the field, Eric Bernard has just gone out in the Larus Lamborghini. And he has a lot of leeway to make up. He's had a bit of a disastrous meeting mechanically. Every time he's been trying to go quick, the car's broken down on him. They've had engines blow up, all sorts of dramas. Prost starts his bid, his last chance to get his Ferrari on the front row. Big lap for Alain Prost. He's got, after his Suzuka debacle, he's got a lot of work to rebuild his reputation, which he's tarnished not only at Suzuka on the track, but his whinging after it and blaming everybody but himself for the loss of the championship, not just on that race, but the last few. Prost has got a fair bit of rebuilding of his credibility ahead of him. A good start would be to come out and put it on the front row right now.
Will he be able to do so? As James has said, he's got a lot to do. 1 minute 16.365 is his fastest time so far. Gerhard Berger, second on the grid, is 1 minute 16.244. So, as James has already said, a tenth of a second would come in very handy indeed, and this looks to me to be an absolutely excellent lap. I haven't seen Prost put a wheel wrong so far. We'll soon know, because this is the last corner, and Prost crosses the line now. And no, it's not nearly good enough. 1 minute 17.020, and that means to say that unless Prost does something superhuman now, no, he's slowing down. He'll have a readout on his cockpit fairing in front of him. He'll know what his time was, and he'll be a very unhappy man.
Yes, and that is the front of the grid set. We still have, and Eric Bernard has moved up into 23rd place, pushing David Brabham down to 25th, but I think Brabham should still be all right, because the people behind have largely used their qualifiers. Alboreto is a man who has a chance, and Caffey in the Arrowses, but they really aren't working too well. So, as Prost goes round, I think that the front of the grid is now pretty much confirmed. Senna still has one set of qualifiers to use. I don't know whether he'll bother. He's, knowing Senna, I think there's a good chance he'll come out in about 3 minutes' time and just try, for his own satisfaction and a general two fingers at all the others, to reduce pole yet further. Now, this is David Brabham. Now, David Brabham, last chance, he will know already. There is the back of the grid on the caption, 25th, David Brabham is. He's under threat, probably from Alboreto and Caffey. I don't suppose Tarquini's likely to improve. I don't think Gasho can get near him. His car isn't good enough. And he's in by 0.3 of a second. He would like to get himself comfy by knocking just maybe a couple of tenths off his time, should move him into a safer area. Big moment for David Brabham too. It may be beyond his control, of course. And Ayrton Senna is now forming up to go out.
Yes, David Brabham desperately needs $3 million for a chance in the Grand Prix team next year. And if he doesn't qualify for the Australian Grand Prix, it certainly diminishes his chances. Meantime, Senna is forming up at the end of the pit lane as you see the Lola Larus car past David Brabham, and Ayrton Senna gesticulating on the pit lane. Now, Senna will certainly be going very, very quickly indeed, because it is always his ambition, which he so very often achieves, to be fastest in every session. The non-qualifying session on the Friday, the qualifying session on the Friday, the non-qualifying session on the Saturday, the qualifying session on the Saturday, and so far he is all the way to his ambition, because he was fastest in both sessions yesterday, he was fastest this morning, he has been fastest thus far today, 1 minute 16.207, and I'm expecting him, to be quite honest, to improve. Because as I talk, it's getting cooler, the sun has gone in, and Senna, with this uncanny ability of his, seems to have again chosen exactly the right conditions. The weather is ideal from his point of view. Well, the sun's peeped out from behind the cloud again, but nevertheless, the circuit may have just cooled down that tiny little bit, which is going to make all the difference. We'll soon know.
Yes, and he has just under 2 minutes to go before the flag comes out. That's a little bit early for Ayrton, but he has got good conditions. Although the sun is back out now, there's been a little bit of shade. There's been cloud moving across the circuit in the last 5 minutes, and he can afford to hold back. And I tell you what, I see Derek Warwick behind doing something very sensible indeed, because I think Warwick is going to stick behind Senna and boot it and try and use Senna as the sort of stalking horse to follow him for a quick lap. That's if I've guessed right. Warwick, I think, is just doing a cruise round, and he's going to try and have a go behind Senna, using Senna to clear the traffic out of the way. Now, Senna's booting it. Senna starts his last attempt. A little grab from the left front brake there. You saw a little puff of smoke as it grabbed. No problem, that wouldn't be enough to unbalance the car. Without any doubt, the fastest man in the business at work. If we can see Derek Warwick in the background, trying to cling on and using Senna as a sort of sight marker. Now onto the main straight. Remember, Senna is already quickest in the session. Nobody's going to beat him now, but he isn't quicker than he was yesterday, and so Senna is now out driving for the fun of it and the personal challenge. There is no tactical reason. It's not going to help him win the Australian Grand Prix tomorrow. What he's doing now, he's doing it purely for his own pride. And there is the flag ready, and he just misses it. And he's 200 slower than he was yesterday for the pole, but he's in a class of his own in qualifying. There's nobody else really getting very close to that. And quickest by half a second today, by 7/10 yesterday. Ayrton Senna has confirmed what we already knew, that he's thoroughly deserved World Championship this year. He's driven better and better as the season's gone on, and now, relaxed, with the championship already sewn up, this is when a driver drives at his very best. Pressure gone, and he's really enjoying himself.
Ayrton Senna will start the Australian Grand Prix in pole position. 52nd time in his career. His teammate Gerhard Berger alongside him on the grid. An ideal situation for Senna and McLaren. The two Ferraris behind the two McLarens, Mansell third, Prost fourth. Jean Alesi on the third row of the grid in fifth place, alongside Riccardo Patrese in the Williams Renault in sixth position. And then the two Benettons, Piquet and Moreno, seventh and eighth. But remember, it's a long, long race here tomorrow. It's going to be hot, and anything could happen. That's it from Adelaide. And we'll be back in a moment.
Hello, I'm Senna. You are watching the wide world of sports. Stay with us.
Stay back nearer the wall. But he does add a bit of fun to it all.
Adds a bit of colour, but certainly just going back to Ayrton Senna's lap, it did not look at all impressive, but the lap was so close to what he did yesterday. It is quite difficult right now to judge what times people are doing.
Well, this session now at an end. It is an all McLaren Honda, front row of the grid, Senna and Berger. Third fastest, Nigel Mansell. Fourth, Alain Prost. 2 Ferraris on row 2. Then Jean Alesi, fifth, with Riccardo Patrese alongside him. And then a fourth row of the grid full of Benetton Fords of Piquet and Moreno. Ninth fastest, last year's winner, Thierry Boutsen. And remaining through all this session in 10th spot, Pierluigi Martini, who has improved today. 11th spot, Derek Warwick in 12th position. Good performance that. We didn't see him all through the session. Nicola Larini in the Ligier, very good performance. 13th, Satoru Nakajima. 14th, Ivan Capelli. In 15th spot, Andrea De Cesaris. 16th, Mauricio Gugelmin. In 17th position, Stefano Modena. 18th, you'll be a little disappointed with that, Johnny Herbert. 19th, Philip Alliot. In 20th position, Gianni Morbidelli. 21st, Emanuele Pirro from his yesterday's time. 22nd, Oliver Griard. 23rd and 24th, the 2 Lola Lamborghinis of Eric Bernard and Aguri Suzuki. Is in the race. 25th, David Brabham, and the final man to stay in the race, Gabriele Tarquini. The 4 who didn't make it, Alboreto, Dalmas, Caffey and Gasho. So that's the lineup for tomorrow's final round of the World Championship. Join us for the race live on Eurosport, of course, but from John and me, it's bye-bye for now.